Hey guys, welcome to our Smite World Championship preview show with the SPL rundown. Here we have an extra jam-packed episode this week featuring check-ins with all of the teams that are going to be in Worlds, as well as some special guest analysts here. We have Kiki joining us along with Lermy and Frost. I think it's best we start with the bracket for Worlds. How are you guys feeling about this World Championship? Is there anything about the bracket or this tournament in general that sticks out to you guys?
Match one, match two. They're going to be absolutely nutty, I think, going into
Sure.
it. It's going to be, I hope that's not where most of the energy is going to get spent, especially seeing as match three is going to be SSG into Mind the Gap, which I think they're going to be playing for just everything's going to be laid out on the line right there in that match for them.
Sure. Do you guys think that any side of the bracket has an advantage, or do you guys think that it doesn't matter which side of the bracket you're on, you just got to beat all the best teams no matter what?
Honestly, it's going to be a pretty decently easy run here for Space Station on the lower side of the bracket, just because they've got Mind the Gap, who's an SOC team. They've got United, who was 7th place overall, and Pittsburgh, which I believe was 4th. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Might be 5th or 6th, but I'm not sure how the final standings struck out.
Sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, they were 2, right behind Ghost. No, they were 3. Anyway,
Space Station,
it's pretty easy for
3.
them. The standings were all over the place in the last week, but I still think that they're definitely rivaling Ghost and Radiance in terms of their skill. Especially, having this time off with this meta developing. They've got the more healer-oriented meta, which we definitely saw a lot during the qualifying land.
Yep.
So if they can kind of abuse that during this beginning start of the brackets, especially in placements, they'll just be able to run right through it.
Sure. Kiki, you've played in tournaments like this. Does the bracket matter too much from your perspective?
Well, in the end, if you want to win, to be number one, you just have to be better than everyone.
Right.
So going into it, it's really just you're going to analyze who you're playing against, and you're just going to try to look for any weaknesses in their play.
Sure.
But I'm looking for Pittsburgh Knights. I mean, you have Paul on the Hell meta right now. Scary D can play Afro sometimes. They're going to play some fun stuff.
Yeah, definitely. You guys are bringing up the meta right now, which I think is a good discussion point to have here. Do you guys think that this healer meta we saw in qualifiers is going to be the talk of the town for Smite World Championships, or is there a way to maybe combat what we saw sort of becoming the preeminent strategy in qualifiers?
It's hard to say, right? Because the healer meta is a little bit more than just particular healers. It's kind of around the style of play as well. And I think it's going to be a little more important for teams like Belt Slap, who really prioritize characters like the Aphrodite, who we've seen Zeros play before. Maybe not to amazing success, but the European meta is really, really around the healers, as we saw in the past couple of weeks.
Sure.
Also for United, we have Variety being able to he's on Renegades now. So that matchup will be really interesting. In terms of Variety picking up his signature Guan Yu, maybe that's kind of the new ish, right? He's kind of that character in particular rather has really risen to the top.
Definitely.
Very quickly with not even really that big of a buff. I think the last change of him was the damage on the 3 getting increased by a little bit.
Frost, any thoughts on what we're going to see in the World's meta?
What we're going to see, or what I hope to see, because those are two very different metas.
No,
right?
Let's go with both.
We've got the healing meta, which is very prominent, but I think that's sort of the least amount of effort for the safest amount of gain. I think there's a meta above that, and Ghost showed us that, because they practically didn't choose any healers last in the playoffs when they went off against Radiance. That was with Radiance each game going, all right, you know what? Another healer. Let's go. Another healer.
Sure.
And Ghost is just going, no, but we saw that they would be put on the back foot, end up at their tier 2 mid tower, and that's when they sort of spring on them. And it just, that level of execution, I don't know if these teams are going to go, yes, heal meta is not the best, but it's just so much safer. It's harder to be on that level to actually properly execute against heal meta. So are they going to go for the better sort of dive comp orientated style, which I think is the best one right now? Or are they just going to try and play it safe, don't want to choke too hard on the world stage and just go for the safer heal meta?
Sure. What do you want to happen?
Dive. I want
full dive?
I want hard fighting. I want them to go absolutely
Not
nuts, just constant fighting, diving on each other.
5v5 at minute 0?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Every step of the way. I think that you can. The overall best strategy right now is to push down on a team, keep your foot on them, and sort of play a minute ahead, and then just kind of exponentially growing that. I don't think it's an absolute snowball where one mistake costs you the game and then you start rolling. I think it's you gain some advantage, gain a little bit more, just a little bit more. It's not exponential, but it is still there. Somewhat of a snowball meta, but heal is just safer because you can lose out in the early, and then one bad fight, you're back in the game.
Sure. Kiki, you're known to pick up these healers every once in a while. Are you feeling that the healing meta is here to stay?
I mean, I like to play what's not good. So what we're seeing right now is healing might be a little too good, and I agree with him, with Frost, on the sense that pressure is much better. Once you pressure the enemy, they don't really have options. You start taking away how they can play the game, and you just let them keep slipping up. But I will say, since Fire Giant is really hard to kill nowadays, having one healer, I think, is kind of, you feel good about that. But with Radiance, they were running like 3 or 4. At that point, you're just giving an additional use for the anti-healing that the enemy is doing. So I think 1 or 2 healers, sure, maybe a third one to be cheeky, but not 4, not too much.
You guys have any other thoughts or concerns about how you think this Worlds is going to play out?
Is this the final format that they decided to go for? But or did they talk about another one? Because it's interesting to me that it's all best of 5, because I think best of 3 is a lot different from best of 5. Here we're gonna see like tenure really plays into it. A lot of pros have practice going full best of 5 matches, whereas like Jake's had a BO3 this entire time. I want to see how he plays it out. A best of 5 on the big stage for the Rookie of the Year.
As far as I know, the tournament bracket that I've given you guys is the final one, according to our beloved community manager. Happy birthday, by the way, to Offeren. Lermy, I cut you off there. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say that first match, Jake's going to be there. Belt Slap's going to be there. Belt Slap famously likes to take incredibly long games. So I can imagine a best of 5 of all 50-plus minute games. It's going to be a little grueling for poor Jake.
I think it's going to be a little bit grueling for Hindu, too.
At the start of the year, they're like, Jake just wants to go in because sometimes he gets bored. But like, you've played Kiki. What's that like, being in those really long sets? And just what's it do to your mental?
I mean, there was that one time where I did that gauntlet run on Oxygen Supremacy.
Oh, right.
And this was no joke. I think 6 to 7, 8 hours of Smite, and they gave us one break. We were begging them for like a break, please. Like, we need to use the bathroom or something, But a banana, please. So we got one break, and then what happened was we were going up against Herwin's team. They were not bad, but we were better. But at the point where we were in our mental, it was too hard to play calculated and just stay like inside the game, because we had been playing so much Smite, and we ended up throwing the game like twice. Skeely used his jump on accident into the enemy, and then Neil tried to save him somehow, and it just couldn't happen. Sure. And little things like that really start to affect players. A lot of players, they scrim for like 2 hours tops. People get lazy. But so into these long games where it's best of 5, that could go potentially up to 5 hours if people are playing healers.
Yeah.
Or playing against EU teams there.
Sure.
Oh man, for that match though, I'm actually just kind of like praying for the boy, for Awesome Jake. Make sure that he's still doing okay. Or if
he's got
the first game goes to 50, second game goes to 50, you might just see him run it down on the third. Like, oh, get me out.
He's got a couple EU mentors on that squad. I'm sure Lasbro and Variety are there telling him to.
But they're such aggro players, man. Those are not the sit and wait kind of EU players I'm thinking of.
We have the calm king Barra there too, who's going to be whispering sweet nothings into Jake's ear to try and calm him down and keep him focused up too. I don't know. I think it will be a great match for sure. Any other maybe implications of the best of 5 other than Awesome Jake? Are there other players who you think might struggle in a best of 5, since we haven't really seen that for these SPL players?
As far as struggling goes, I don't think any other teams strike me as particularly like antsy to do anything else. I think this best of 5 might favor different teams, I suppose, in a way, because United, their entire strats, it seems to be like they draft for late, like a really strange 5v5 kind of team fight thing. Mind the Gap versus Space Station, I think they're both going to be perfectly fine with these slow and steady games, and then Obey versus Sanguine. Wolfie traditionally is from that EU style of meta.
Definitely.
Sanguine, they love taking it slow and steady, but I think the reasoning behind playing slow and steady is it gives you a lot of time to sort of think of your game plan for late game. Sanguine, to me, that is somewhat renowned for, they play slow, but they're not thinking too far ahead. It's just kind of like they're just sort of there.
Sure. The first match of Smite World Championship, which is going to be Belt Slap versus the Renegades. We've already been talking about the EU ping. I think Belt Slap probably has a pretty good shot in this. There's a lot of former SPL pros or SPL adjacent people that are on that team. What are you guys' thoughts on this Belt Slap versus Renegades matchup?
On consistently even ping, Belt Slap is probably better than Renegades. The problem is going to lie in whether or not Renegades can be consistent, whether they've been practicing over these past couple of months that we've been off of Smite and really raise their consistency, because we have to remember we haven't seen these guys play since the finals, which was in November, right? So like it's been a hot second since we've seen these guys play. So really their practice could have gone super well. They've come up with some awesome new strategies and it'll all work out. But also if they, haven't found that new-ish or they haven't been able to increase the consistency, I think it'll be a little bit tough. But again, that's all under the caveat of ping being even.
Right.
That's really the big question mark in this matchup.
Sure. Frost, your thoughts on this matchup?
Let me get the words for it, because there was something I was formulating there.
Sure.
It's like just scratching at the back of my head.
Kiki, you have any thoughts? I will mention that Trix is not going to be playing in support for Belt Slap.
Oh.
Genetics is going to be stepping in. When I talked to Zeros, he said that Trix was unable to play due to finals, or he has some tests coming up for his uni.
So unfortunate.
Dang,
so that adds maybe another dimension to the Belt Slap Renegades matchup. You think Genetics can, I'm sure they're only sort of scrimming with him for this past week or 2 weeks since the qualifiers, because they played against him, I believe, in the EU qualifiers. So that throws another wrench into this whole situation.
I was going to give it to Renegades anyway, because I think from what I saw, Belt Slap doesn't have someone that is willing to take a chance in terms of making some highlight play, which is what you need on these world stage. And you have Ben in mid, which I'm a big fan of him.
Yeah.
Bear can pop off sometimes too. I mean, you have Jake, who is so fresh to the scene, and somehow he's making waves and people are learning how to play from him. It's really impressive. And last one can carry too. So, I mean, I'm definitely going with the Renegade.
Sure. I was able to sit down with Venenu here to talk about how the Renegade boys are feeling with this month break leading into the World Championship. Hey guys, I'm here with Venenu, the mid laner for Renegades, just to check in with how the team is doing before Worlds. And so the first question I got for you here is just how is the team prepping for this tournament, and how are scrims going? How's the general feel and vibe for the team as you're leading up to this tournament?
It's going good. Obviously, there's a little bit of tension and a little bit of stress, obviously, because when we're not doing certain plays or making mistakes on certain plays that have previously been fixed, can be a little worrisome a bit.
Sure.
But we're pretty open with each other and we're pretty honest on everything, so things get fixed pretty easily. And right now we're kind of just trying to scrimming single blocks for right now, but next week and the week after, which is the 2 weeks before Worlds, we're double blocking every single day and just getting in there and getting them done.
Yeah, the nose to the grindstone.
Yeah.
I want to ask a bit more specifically about your opponents, because you are one of the teams that does know who they're going to be playing. What are sort of your general thoughts on Belt Slap and this EU team? I know there are quite a few sort of ex-SPL players there. Unfortunately, Trix Tank probably won't be playing, but I believe Genetics is subbing in for him. What are your thoughts on the squad that you're going to be going up against in the first round?
Yeah, I mean, they have players with experience, players that have been at Worlds before, so not gonna like underestimate the team at all. They're gonna be playing on EU ping, but at the same time, I mean, Zeros is hard grinding NA ranked, and
Yeah.
I think there's a couple other of his teammates as well. I mean, Genetics played on SPL before, so he has a little bit used to the ping. Yeah, but we're not gonna underestimate them all. We've done a little bit of VOD review and see how they play and stuff like that. So, yep, just going into it like usual and studying our team and or studying the team we're facing and gonna do good into them.
Sure. I wonder if you guys maybe have a bit of expectations now, considering how well you guys played in the Phase 2 playoffs. Is that something that you guys are consciously thinking about? Do you feel that sort of expectations? Because we sort of maybe caught a glimpse of the mountaintop, so to speak.
Yeah, I can see people putting a higher expectation on us for sure. We've always been a team that has kind of contested with the top teams anyway.
True.
But we just never were super consistent with it, and we couldn't like finish games and stuff like that. So it's just stuff that we have to work on. Working in with like Harry and working with that stuff. Like he is a veteran player, so that's experience that gives Jake and Last, to be honest. So that's really good, and there's a lot of trust between the two. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely good for sure.
Yeah. Do you guys feel like you're building off that experience that you guys had in the Phase 2 playoffs? Like, did you feel like that was a culmination of some effort, and now you can sort of like build off of that foundation?
So for us, we know what worked, but we don't want to be like the one-trick ponies kind of going into it and stuff like that.
Sure.
We're looking at other teams and like what Ghost did, what Radiance did, and stuff like that, and kind of trying to potentially like yoink some of their stuff and what worked for them, and try to mend it into our own play, and just have a bunch of different play styles and stuff. So, yep.
Spicy God picks. What can we expect from maybe your team or maybe other teams? Something that you got from a little leak that you can give us from the scrim sessions at all?
Not sure I'm gonna leak too much, but the definitely thing that everyone's complaining about is like obviously the healing meta, right?
Sure.
That's been a pretty prominent thing in ranked, and pretty prominent thing that like everybody hates. And I think Ghost, well, yeah, when Ghost played like the Hell and stuff and did like the quote unquote like healer build that Twig did, like it was just like very, very potent and stuff, and that kind of transitions into potentially like other characters doing it and other mages. And I think what we saw with the SML teams and stuff, Zeros was playing Chunga a lot and doing like a different type of build with like Soul Gem. I don't think he went as Sleepiest until last item, maybe.
Yep, I think you're right.
Yeah, he definitely showing off the Chunga and stuff. So it's definitely just, I think in mid lane specifically, it's very like kind of how the mid player wants to play. Like I don't think there's any like quote unquote set meta. It's just kind of what they want to play type of thing.
Sure.
So you'll definitely see probably everybody's type of split play style, like meshing and just brawling at each other. So it'll be pretty cool.
All right, man. Well, just want to give you thanks and wish you good luck in this World's Tournament. Wish the best for you and your team. Do you have any shout outs you want to give?
Shout outs to my Twitter, twitter.com/venenu_, and my YouTube as well. I upload daily there. youtube.com/venenu, and same with my Twitch. I stream daily at twitch.tv/venenu_ as well.
All right, man.
And I appreciate you inviting me to this. This was fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, wish you guys the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think this will be a good sort of opportunity for Renegades to really show some progress. I know I was very impressed with their showing in the playoffs, especially against Ghost. I know they did lose, but I think they really played quite well. I've watched back some of those games recently. They looked really good in those games. So if they can build off of that progress, I think, this probably will be maybe easy for the Renegades, and that's sort of what I'm thinking. Frost, you got your words?
Got my words for this one. Honestly, I'm feeling really good for Belt Slap.
Sure.
I think we're going to see we had the Knights with their Dark Horse run last time around. I think this horse belongs to Belt Slap this time around. Seeing as how the matchup's going to go, you've got tenure on both sides of the team. The meta, though, I think it just favors EU style so heavily, and Genetics loves his like healing supports or anything that has to do in that regard. I just also think that the planning, the brain side of Smite, I think is super heavy for Bell Slap. You got Zeros, who was he coached for so long and had a very successful career as a player himself. Is just I think it's going to come down to the ping, honestly, the ping and whose brain doesn't explode in a best of 5.
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
Well,
I think that's the match to watch.
Let's talk to Zeros about how this Belt Slap squad is prepping for Worlds. Hey guys, I'm here with Zeros, the mid laner for Belt Slap, to talk about how they're preparing leading up to this Worlds tournament. And speaking of preparation, you know, how do you guys prepare for this tournament, especially being in EU? What is how are you going about this? I'm sure it's difficult to get scrims with SPL teams and things like that, given your situation.
Actually, it's been kind of easy. I thought it'd be difficult maybe, but I mean, we'd only been scrimming for 1 week, but it was not that hard to find scrims.
That's good. That's good to hear.
But we do play on NA servers, so.
Right, which is very detrimental. You know, you're one of the couple teams that knows who their opponent is going to be to start out here. I believe you guys are playing against let me check here. Renegades.
Right?
Yeah, Renegades. What do you think about this Renegades roster? How do you feel about your opponents? Are you worried about them, or are you just more concerned about playing your own game?
I mean, when they're gonna average like 100 ping lower than us, I'm pretty sure they could be pretty tough. But I mean, they're a good roster. They're good players. Like Variety, for example, like an old teammate of mine. I know is really good. So they've been good, but I haven't been that impressed with them through like the season. I've been watching their games and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, they're definitely like a decent team. So.
Sure. You've brought up the EU ping a couple of times already. What is there anything you guys are doing to try to combat that? You know, at least get it as low as possible for you guys. Or are you like practicing on NA servers or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm practicing. I'm playing like NA ranked, and like as I said, we scrim on NA servers as well. And like we've been trying to get some VPNs and stuff, but I've tried a few, and like they haven't really helped. I think.
Sure.
I averaged like between like 120 to 130 ping on NA servers, which isn't like too bad, I guess. But I mean, I play on like 30 ping in EU, so like
right.
Pretty big difference.
Hey man, the West Coast players at NA play on that same sort of ping, so you know it is a bit of equalization there, right? Because there are some, West Coast players. I remember I was talking to Mind the Gap, and they have a couple. I think one guy who is on West Coast ping. So, I think it's. I'm glad to see that you guys are trying some things, and I think practicing on NA servers is probably some of the best practice that you can get.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty mentally draining though, because like honestly, you do feel like a worse player, kind of.
Oh, definitely.
When you play on that kind of high ping, it's just, I don't know. I've been noticing. If you know what's gonna happen, like say you know what jungle is looking to blink on you or whatever, when you're on any ping, it's kind of, you can deal with it. But it's like whenever something happens that you're not ready for,
right?
That's like when the ping feels kind of wonky. But apart from that, it's not like the end of the world.
So basically, if you're snowballing, it'll be fine.
Yeah, I guess. Or if I play easy characters, maybe.
Sure. You guys feel like you guys are underdogs? Because I mean, I guess coming into this, not really the SPL team, but you guys have a bunch of SPL pedigree and even like Worlds pedigree. Does that play into it a little bit, or do you guys feel like you're an underdog even in this situation?
We're definitely an underdog now, like obviously with
right,
the ping.
right.
And also we're gonna play with genetics rather than tricks, because tricks has to commit to uni. So
sure.
We're definitely an underdog. But I think if we had tricks and we played on LAN, I think they would be the underdog, honestly.
Oh, okay. Is that a good status for you? Do you like being the underdog at all, or would you rather be the favorite?
I honestly don't care too much. I guess it's less pressure if you're an underdog, especially now when we play on any ping, because like I can feed my brains out and like I can just be like, oh, it's the ping, But but honestly, I don't care too much. So
I've been asking everyone who I've talked to about this. Any spicy god picks that you guys are expecting for this World Tournament, or is there any? Can you give me a leak of anything that's happening in the scrims?
No, I don't think I should do that. But I mean, there's nothing that spicy, I guess. I mean, there's a few picks. But I mean, obviously, I don't think I want to give anything away. So, but yeah, I mean, there might be some, but I think most stuff are pretty common right now, I think.
Sure. All right, man. thanks a lot for joining me here. I want to wish you and your team, Belt Slap, the best of luck in this Worlds bracket. I want to give you the opportunity to give any shout-outs you want right now. Go ahead.
Shout out to Trickstank, I guess, for leaving us in the dirt after a full year. Nah, just kidding. Shout out to everyone who supported us this year, I guess.
All right, man. Thank you so much, and best of luck to you in the Worlds Tournament.
Thank you, man.
I'll come back to all of you on this, but Frost, you want to give a pick for this matchup, Belt Slap versus Renegades?
I'll put my money on Belt Slap here. I will do it.
All right.
And let's see, best of 5. I'll say it's going to be 3-2.
3-2 to Belt Slap.
3-2 Belt Slap. Yeah, it's going to be a long one.
I know Kiki said that he was feeling the Renegades. Do you think it's going to be a 3-2 a long set, or are they going to be able to push it pretty quickly?
Well, I feel like the second game of these sets matters a lot. So if someone wins the first one, it's a reset. Sure. And then whoever wins the second one, it feels like, oh, we're game 3 into the set now. Like we have to just get serious. So I think it's gonna go 3-1.
Okay.
And I'm hoping it goes Renegade's favor, but I agree. Belt Slap is pretty good. It really just depends on the ping, I guess.
Are you choosing Renegades or Belt Slap?
If I have to, I'll say Renegades.
Okay. Lermy, how about you?
It's a really tough one. I think that Belt Slap does have the capability to win even on NA ping. I just think that they are playing to the meta more efficiently, as Frost was saying. But I don't think Renegades will fall over. I think they will put up a decent fight. I think that they will be long games, but I'm still in the favor of Belt Slap. But I do have the confidence. It might be foolish to say 3-1 for Belt Slap. We'll have to see, though.
That's pretty spicy. I don't know. I think the EU ping is probably going to play a bit more of a mental problem than an actual physical ping problem. And I think, Renegades have basically been in the tank for 2 months, haven't had to show anything. I think there are going to be some new strategies cooked up, so I think I'm going to go with the Renegades. I think I'll choose them 3-1. Let's move on to the next match, which is going to be Obey versus Sanguine, which is kind of poetic if you think about it, right? Obey versus Sanguine was the first match of SPL Season 7. A lot of drama between Weekend and the Sanguine boys. And it basically ends right where it started here with Obey versus Sanguine. What do you guys see as what do you want to see from this match? Do you think Obey has a chance to win? And do you think Sanguine can make up for their poor playoff showings? What's going on in this set?
I don't know if we'll see anything besides standard. Both maybe Sino likes to play his warriors, but most of these players like to just stick to what's written on the script. Sanguine picks Jingwei and a bunch of safe characters and hopes that they win a fight in a 50-minute marker. Obey can make some highlight plays, sure, but I feel like they're definitely going to stumble against Sanguine, who's used to playing back and just waiting for the enemy to make a mistake.
Lermy, you were about to say something?
It really depends in my eyes. I think that Sanguine will take it if Obey doesn't cook up anything new in the time that we've been off. But there are a couple things in the books right now that do kind of favor Obey. We've got the Raw pick that Wolfie has loved, being probably almost uncontested the best mage in the game at this point. We've also got things like Yamoja, which actually goes a little bit more to Bobby's favor than it did before. He previously has had really not great showings on Yamoja, but he has improved it towards the end. We've seen him really get a lot stronger on that god, and with the healing meta, it is definitely in there. And I guess the really like last kind of thing to consider here is the fact that Nox is also present right now. We've seen Nox be in support. We've seen Ducky attempt to bring up the Nox before the minor rework, so maybe Nox comes out in some kind of other new role, jungle. Maybe they try and go for it. But honestly, that's just my opinion. I will die on the hill of Nox jungle any day of the week. But I do think that she's pretty potent. I mean, we saw Genetics play it.
We've seen PBM play it really well too, I think.
Oh, as well. So honestly, if they pick something wild like that, I mean, I could see it going in Obey's favor, but that's the big if, the big asterisk at the end is if they do something creative out of the box like that.
Check out what Bobby had to say in our pre-Worlds interview. Hey guys, I'm here with Inbound, the support for Obey Alliance, here to talk about a little bit about how they are feeling going into this Worlds tournament. And I have to just start with, how's the team really preparing going into this tournament? I know you guys have Sanguine as your first opponents, and we'll talk about them a little bit more in a bit, but just what's the prep like? Is it just mostly scrimming, or is there, something else going on that you guys are doing? Anything special?
Not really. Just mostly scrimming. Do like a little bit of auto review. Yeah, we're mostly just sticking to scrimming, double scrims when we can get them, stuff like that.
Sure. You sort of have, I don't know if it's an advantage or not, but you know who your opponent is going into this, and Sanguine is sort of a team that Obey has had a lot of sort of run-ins with, especially, we saw in the weekend era there was some, I don't know if there was beef, but maybe a little bit of meat there. How do you feel about your opponents in Sanguine?
I think we match up pretty well with them. They like playing for like more of the late game and just like kind of winning like one team fight, just farming up. And I think we can play that way too, but we also have like a little bit of early game aggression to us. So I think I'm glad that we got matched up with Sanguine.
Yeah. Do you maybe feel like you guys have an underdog status in the Sanguine matchup? And is that something that you guys think about? Does that help your mentality at all in any way? Or is it mostly just, do you think you're on even footing with a lot of the SPL?
I think we're on even footing, but I think people are going to underestimate us coming into it. So I think we will have a little bit of an underdog status to us. And I think that is nice for us. We have a lot less pressure on us, and I don't know, more or less that we don't have pressure, but Sanguine does have pressure, and I don't know how they're going to deal with it. I don't know how they're going to be able to play through the pressure. They're obviously going to be able to play at home now, which will help them a little bit, but it'll still be a little bit of pressure because it still is technically Worlds, even if it is not played in studio or in the venue. I can't even remember what it's called, but there's still going to be a little bit of pressure there for them.
Of course there is. Yeah, I mean the payout is huge too, so it's like the biggest tournament in Smite. So I think everyone feels a little bit of pressure, no matter whether they're playing from home or not. I want to ask a little bit about, we've had a long extended break here. Are you worried maybe a little bit about rust? And what did you guys do? I know you were able to visit your parents a little bit. How was that?
Yeah, it was nice to be able to just go home and relax for a couple days. We took I don't even know how long it was, but we took a good amount of time off just to like kind of reset, relax, like fix the mentals, just kind of get out of the headspace we were in before. Where we were like the bottom team in the SPL. Now we're just the bottom seed in a tournament, and we think we have a good chance of playing through it. Sino went home also. Sino's just been kind of enjoying his time there, and then the rest of them have been just stuck at the house. But I think the little break that we got will be a lot of help for us.
All right, so I'll be remiss if I don't ask you, are there any spicy god picks that you have that you can clue me in on? Just give me a little crumb of what we can expect in Worlds, Bobby.
Spicy picks. Maybe I go Invis. Maybe.
Oh really? Maybe. Loki? Morgan? Ooh, maybe. That's pretty spicy, Bobby.
Yorm? Maybe.
Hey,
maybe I go Invis.
He goes Invis too. All right. Go ahead and give some shout outs, Bobby. Thanks for joining me, and I wish you the best of luck in the Worlds Tournament coming up here.
Thank you. Shout outs to my team. Shout out to Obey. Shout outs to High Res. I'm excited for Season 8. Everyone should be excited for Season 8. It was a great announcement. Yeah, I'm ready for Worlds.
All right, man. Thanks a lot, Bobby. Frost?
I'm in the same vein here. I personally don't care who wins this. What I want to see is progress. Exactly in the same words from Kiki. These teams play to the script. If they show up after an entire year of SPL play and show that they haven't grown from everything that they've done, I will be disappointed, regardless of who wins. I just hope that they get here and the Sanguine does something out of the box or starts planning beyond that, or Obey steps in. I just want to see both of these teams grow.
Sure. We've talked a lot all season about Sanguine being very meta-focused a lot of times. Do you think they have, the possibility to change something drastic in what we consider, or what they might consider meta picks, or do you expect them to maybe go more to some of these healers and other things that we've seen rise up, or are we going to see them maybe stick to what they know?
They do have a few of the healers in there.
Yeah.
In their meta, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think we've seen
Shinto
Yorkor,
especially, I think.
And Yorkor has played Afro, so Is that something you expect to see from them, to switch to the healing meta as we see that come up?
I think they understand its strength, and they usually run like one healer, maybe a second one. They're not going to overdo it because they do like to dive in groups, and maybe just have Shinto sit back.
Sure.
That's just what they usually do.
Shinto's got a nutty hell too. So.
Oh, that's true.
Into
We're going to see a lot of hell bans, it feels like.
Oh god. Oh god, if the top picks, I don't know how they're gonna do that because yeah, you could ban out the healers, but then you have to deal with the top picks regardless,
Sure.
or vice versa. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be a pain. 20 bans for SWC, please.
Yeah.
It really depends, I think, because the Sanguine do have the pocket healers, but that's really what they are, is they're in the pocket. They might come out now that it's meta, but I'm kind of convinced they'll just continue to stick Shinto on a carry god, you know, whether it be his Merlin, whether it be Persephone, if she gets through. We haven't talked a whole lot about her, but she's still pretty decent. She's definitely fallen off a lot, considering she's been taking a whole lot of nerfs to the face, but still scary in the hands of Shinto.
I was able to sit down with Yarkor to talk about Sanguine and how they're feeling going into the Smite World Championships. Hey guys, I'm here with Yarkor, the solo laner of Sanguine, just to check in before this Worlds tournament and see how the team is doing. So the first question I want to ask is, how is the team prepping for this tournament, and what is sort of the general vibe? You guys have a lot of time to prepare for this tournament, so can you explain how that's going from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, like you saw it all. We're just playing together. That's what we really think that we need to do. We are just playing together as a team. We are screaming some days. We are taking some days off too because like over screaming and overdoing things bad too. So I think we like at the end of the year we find a balance right now. So we are right now in a pretty good spot, I think. So I think the practice that we're getting is pretty good practice. So I think we're ready for what is coming.
Sure. Your opponents in Worlds, I think, sort of poetically, are Obey. You know, you started off the season with facing Obey, and it was sort of a big test for you guys, I think. And now sort of it all comes back to Obey again. How are you guys taking Obey in this tournament? Do you think that they're a team you should be worried about, or are you feeling pretty confident going into that matchup?
I think like kinda both ways. Like I think we just take every single team seriously. We just try to play every single game. It was like a Wars final, so like we don't mind which team is it. We just take it as seriously as we can. And yeah, that's it. I think it's like we take it seriously, so we give our best. I think in every single game that we have in the tournament.
Sure. I want to talk a little bit more about tournaments in general. Like, you guys have had really good regular season, both Phase 1 and Phase 2. I think you guys played really well. But then the tournament time comes around, and it doesn't look as good. Can you talk about how you guys are trying to fix that?
I think a little. I mean, it's always like a thing conversation that we really have before those tournaments. But like, I think we feel that maybe some of the days like wasn't our day. So when you play poorly and you don't think that you really have to do, you will lose against those teams. And that happened to us in like last two playoffs. So we will try to like be in the correct mood, like being focused on what we really want to, because this is like the biggest tournament of the year. Even though we're playing it at home, but we're just taking it as seriously as we can and just try our best and see what happens.
Yeah, of course. I think most teams feel like anybody can take this tournament. You know, you're gonna have to beat the best teams no matter what. So I think everyone is on the same page there. Can you talk a little bit about maybe some other teams other than Obey? Are you worried about any of the other teams at all? Or just focused on Obey right now?
Yeah, we're focused on Obey, but like last playoff, I really wanted to play against Ghost. Because I think like playing against Ghost is fun, but it's always a challenge. Because I don't know, I seen them like the best team in the league. So there is like a bar that you have to catch up. So Like playing against them is what for example, in last play, if I really want that, because we beat Renegade, we have to face against them, but we couldn't even beat Renegade. So, yeah, I think Ghost would be like the team that I would really want to play against.
Sure.
And we have, and if we win our game, so
Right.
hopefully we do.
Yeah, definitely. What are some of the spicy god picks us fans can maybe expect in Worlds? Is there anything you can maybe leak from the secret scrims at all?
Oh, I don't think it's like anything spicy with us.
Nothing spicy
We
with you
just-
guys?
Yeah, we are just the team that play the meta gods. We
Yeah.
just play what we think that is good, and that is what we have been doing the whole year. Like people already know where we're gonna be, so I think like most of the team have it like easy to draft against us. I mean, it's hard because you don't have enough bans to ban those gods.
Sure.
And we play every single one like just so great that you really need to think whether you wanna focus.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're gonna play what we think is good.
Sure.
That probably would be the meta pick. So
Yeah.
I don't think it would be like anything spicy from us.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for joining me here, Yarkor, checking in with us in our Smite World Championship preview show. I want to wish you and Sanguine the best of luck in this Worlds tournament. Are there any shout outs you want to give?
I wanna shout out to Blaine, to Cakeman,
Yeah.
because I think he have done like a lot of things for us this year, even though this year just sucks in general because what everything happened.
Yep.
He and his mom really made him feel like great.
Sure.
So I want to shout out for them and thank them too.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Yarkor. And like I said, wish you the best of luck in World Championships.
Thank you.
You want to give us your prediction here, Lermy, for the set? Obey versus Sanguine?
Okay, this is a tough one to say either 3-1 or 3-0. But I will give Obey some credit. I'm going to say 3-1 for Sanguine here. I think Obey will show up, bring something new to the table, but I don't think that they can take it in the end.
Kiki, how about you? Who you got? Obey versus Sanguine?
Frost went for Sanguine, right?
I don't know if we've asked Frost yet. But...
I didn't send mine yet.
Are
you trying to be different? Because Obey.
yeah. I don't want to. I don't want to. Everyone like ignore Obey. I think that maybe that Sino can pull through.
Sure.
You were right about the Ducky on the Nox. Ducky's not afraid to do something quirky. So if Obey do win, it'll be 3-2.
Okay. Are you putting your name in that hat? The Obey 3-2 hat?
Yeah, got the Obey stamp on there. Okay.
All right, Frost, round us off here.
What if I want to Obey now?
Go for it.
I don't think either team is too particular about the heal meta. I think Wolfie loves Ra as Ra, and not just like a healer mage.
Yeah.
And Sanguine kind of same thing too. Maybe they both just fight over Hercules, and that's it as far as heal goes for them. But I think it's going to come down to either Obey pull out some jank strat that's really going to catch Sanguine out of nowhere, or Sanguine's going to do the usual where they just team fight really, really well and wait for Obey to take fights into them. In the end, though, I think it's going to be Sanguine 3-1.
All right. Let's move on to the next match here, which is going to be Mind the Gap versus Space Station Gaming. And Mind the Gap, really, they don't have too much to lose. They have a lot of things to gain. A bunch of former box players, and I think great players in their own right. We see Layers and Crimson and Griff. A lot of people have been giving them props, especially in the pro community. And then they're playing up against SSG, who have kind of been like a wet fart in some of these paths. In the playoffs, especially, I will say.
That's one way to put it.
Seemed a little bit underwhelming, Do you think they've maybe seen enough from Mind the Gap to feel comfortable in their own play style? Or do you think Mind the Gap has some things up their sleeve or have a chance to beat this SSG team?
It's so hard to say because I love Mind the Gap. They're some of my homies, I love Layers. He's a great dude. The only issue is sometimes they can be a little inconsistent. They sometimes play by the book. You know, we've seen them do some wacky stuff before, but I don't think any of their wackiness that they've pulled out and done well against SCC, SOC teams will work against Space Station. Like, I'm not going to see an Ares jungle up in Worlds. You know, as much as I wish that we would be seeing it, you know, it's probably not going to happen. I think Space Station are just consistent enough. You know, they play the meta well enough. They're very mechanically talented, and just the couple of superstars on Mind the Gap, I don't think that they're going to be enough to carry them through that match.
Sure. I want to just mention, though, I know you say there are only a couple of superstars, but it feels like Mind the Gap maybe has a bit of latent synergy. You know, all these guys have been playing with each other for a long time, especially in the box scene. You know, so they all know each other relatively well. Not to say that Space Station don't know each other, because this is basically the same team that was Renegades last year, except for Vogue. And I know all of those boys are good friends, too. You know, do you think Mind the Gap is still the underdogs here?
I mean, they're coming from the SOC, right? So that's not even the SCC. That's 2 leagues under that you're coming from, up against one of the best teams in the SPL. I mean, it's hard to say otherwise, right? Especially because these guys on Space Station have been in the SPL for years and years and years at this point. I mean, clearly they are the more tenured team, but definitely the fresh faces of a smiling box team can certainly shake things up a little bit.
Sure. Almost half the Mind the Gap roster joined me to talk about how they're feeling going into this Worlds. Hey guys, I'm here checking in with Mind the Gap. We got Layers, Crimson, and Griff here to talk a little bit about how they're feeling going into the Smite World Championships here. So the first thing I got to ask here is, how are you guys preparing for this tournament? I know, Layers, when you were talking after winning the qualifiers, you said you're looking forward to lots of scrims with SPL teams. Has that been the case? Have you guys been able to get some good practice against these SPL teams?
Yeah, we've been consistently getting scrims against a couple teams. Well, the tournament just ended last weekend, so we've only been able to scrim probably like 3 or 4 times, I'd say.
Sure.
So far, like 3 or 4 scrim blocks, but it's still pretty decent considering. It's definitely the best scrims we've had all year, so it's been nice.
That's good. You guys, any thoughts on your scrims? How are you guys prepping? Maybe individually? Are you guys having some specific mental preparation? I know you guys are all sort of versed in these sorts of end-of-year tournaments and world championships, having been there on the box, all of you guys. How's the mental, prep for this tournament going?
I'm just excited. Not to bash SCC teams, but when we scrim them, the game quality isn't the best. So there's definitely like more like on our mental for scrims, because we actually can VOD review games now since we're scrimming SPL, and since they play the map better, we can see what they do and we can improve our play.
Sure.
So it's definitely like a lot more work than what we had to do this year.
Yeah. You guys, I guess, are a little bit lucky in the case that you know who your opponent is going to be. Does that make preparing a little bit easier? It can be a little more focused on one thing? Or do you guys feel like you sort of have to be ready to beat all the teams because, that's an eventuality you guys want to come up against?
For me, personally, I mean, I kind of think as a team we are kind of too. We're kind of scrimming like with intentions of playing against SSG. For me personally, that's all I want is just one set. Like, I don't care how far we go after that, but I just want that one set win. So this whole time that I've been thinking about like what we're doing and stuff, we've been like preparing like for like playing against SSG.
Sure. Griff or Layers, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd say I think we're mainly focused on scrimming, like on how it would go versus SSG and like playing a play style that would be good against them.
Yeah.
But if we make it after that, I don't really know. Like, we're probably not going to prep that much for like other teams.
Sure.
One set at a time. One set at a time.
Way
to go for now on.
Yeah. I mean, it just, once you win that set, I think things start happening a little bit fast and crazy, so it's hard to sort of maybe gauge preparation, especially at that time. But it probably helps a little bit that you don't have to travel and there's, not the hullabaloo of the hotel or the fans or things like that, right?
Yep.
Do you guys feel like you guys have any advantages as underdogs, or maybe a team that SPL teams might not be paying attention to as much?
I think we definitely have an advantage in that. I think being an underdog, there's like no pressure on us. I feel like all the pressure is on SSG for them to perform and like shut us down, because like that's how it should be. You know what I mean? Like they're expected to win, right?
Right.
Because obviously like a top card in the SPL, and they're playing against a team that's like not really. Well, we haven't had like the same caliber of practice all year.
Sure.
So we're trying to catch up. They've had this whole year of practice, and we're trying to like catch up to that in a month.
Yeah, you're
or
trying
even
to
half a
cram
month
it in there.
worth of time. So yeah, we're definitely tasked with that. But I definitely feel like the ball is on our court when it comes to that. That we have like I feel no pressure heading into the sets.
Krim, Griff, do you feel sort of the same way as that? You sort of like having no pressure as the underdog?
Just gonna add on to that. I think that it's pretty helpful for us because I think SSG is also like the last tournament they didn't look that good, so I think this is a bounce back tournament for them. So if they don't look how they did during the regular season, because during the regular season like they beat I think everyone, maybe besides Ghost.
Yep.
And I think that like if they are that form, then they can beat anyone in the tournament. But if they look like they did last tournament, then we actually might have a shot of beating them. And like if we prepare and stuff, I think we can actually upset if we play well and they don't.
Sure. Krim, you're about to say something there.
It's just Anthony was kind of throwing shots about their playoff performance.
Well,
I mean, he's not saying things that are false.
It's what happened. Yeah,
it is what happened. That is true.
It's not like he's saying anything that's like wrong. It is factual that
it's just funny.
work that well. I mean, I guess if you want to consider it funny.
Sure. I do want to give you guys some times to give some shout outs and things like that. But I also just want to thank you guys all for coming on and wish you the best of luck in the tournament coming up in January. So whoever wants to start with shout outs, you can start us off and we'll just get through all of you, okay?
All right. I want to shout out Sanguine. Sanguine are actually like the nicest people ever and the best. They're so good as a team, and like if we have success at Worlds, I'm like 95% of the credit should go to Sanguine. Like we're learning so much off of scrimming them, and for the first couple of games, they just destroyed us. And like for them, I think it would just be a waste of time. But the fact that they still like keep scheduling scrims with us and keep helping us improve, like it's a huge shout out to them for being so nice and helping us improve so much.
Sure.
To add on to that, I agree with what he said. That Sanguine, if we are successful and we like turn some heads at Worlds, it's definitely a credit to Sanguine and them scrimming us. They've beaten us, but they've dismantled us in a couple of matches. I think dismantle is probably the proper word.
That might not even be it.
Games. Yeah, it might not even be it. A couple games we've definitely got our shit pushed in a little bit. It was kind of rough, but I think we are learning. We've learned so much from this like past week of just like a couple of scrim blocks with Sanguine than we've had all year, because of the quality of practice and how they play the map and like how they work together. There's just like so much. There's so much more to it when you play against a team of that caliber. And it's really like we're learning like really, really quickly. Like we're picking up very fast. So I can't wait until Worlds in a couple weeks. And so hopefully we can pull out some upsets maybe.
Sure.
That'd be ideal.
Griff, you want to round us out here?
I don't really think there's anything more to say. I mean, yeah, I think Sanguine and Obey, the two teams that we've played, they taught me a lot personally, and like I didn't really know as much as I thought I did about, I guess, Smite.
Sure.
Like they sort of just play, like SPL plays the game a certain way that like you can only see if you are playing in that game. And like against SPL teams. And,
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for doing this for me. I hope it didn't take too much of your time. Good luck. And that's all I got here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Kiki or Frost, any thoughts on this game? I know we're talking a lot about Mind the Gap. Any thoughts about Space Station, maybe?
I mean, I know that you called them a wet fart. To use your analogy, I feel like Mind the Gap is literally they're just like constipated players. Like they don't really, they haven't begun to compete at such a level.
Sure,
There's so many little things that you need when it comes to these games. Sure, Mind the Gap is they're happy to try to look for the 1v1 or this a little crazy pick. But up against Space Station, I feel like maybe they haven't been trying as hard. I feel like Rafford tends to try to hide his picks. If he knows that he's going to get to Worlds, he doesn't care what his seed is because, like I said, you need to just beat everyone else. It doesn't matter what seed you are. You just need to be the best team. So Rafford tends to hide, they call it sandbagging a bit, his skill, and he's going to pop off. He wants another World Championship, is what I think. So going Space Station for sure.
Yeah. Frost, how about you here? Any thoughts on this set?
I think this one's just it's just destined for Space Station Gaming. They've got way too much tenure. They've seen way too much so far. The thing about Mind the Gap is that they have a lot of explosive energy that kind of comes out of nowhere, such as that Ares jungle. I don't think you get away with that against the gentlemen, the elder gents of Smite here.
Sure.
Like that. Ares jungle, I saw that in season 0 back in my day, yada yada. That's what's gonna come out of Rafa and the boys here.
Yeah, true.
But at the same time, whereas like EU, SEC, and SOC, I think their teams have an overabundance of talent. I feel like NA, SEC, SOC are just kind of there.
My good friend Cheerio stopped by to do a little check-in on how the team is doing going into the Smite World Championships. Hey guys, I'm here with Cheerio, the jungler for Space Station Gaming, just to check in and see how the team is doing in the lead up to Worlds. So starting on that front, can you talk to me a little bit about how the preparations for this Worlds tournament are going and just how the general vibe with the team is in the lead up to this big tournament?
We're still like scrimming every day, except on weekends. We are trying to figure out our play style we're going to be playing for Worlds. Scrims haven't been going like the best, but we're hoping like it will improve as we get closer to Worlds, which is like pretty close. Like there isn't that much time left, so hopefully this week we like start like really getting a lot more, like learning a lot more.
Sure. So you guys, I think, were the team that got to choose which SDC team they were gonna play, and you guys chose Mind the Gap. Can you take us through that decision a little bit, like why you chose them?
It was mainly because at the time when we chose, we didn't know if we'd be playing on NA or EU service, whether it will be just NA or we'll be switching, and we didn't. And at the time, it was we'll be switching. Whoever loses choose a side, choose a side and server, and we didn't really want to deal with the high ping, so we're just like, let's just go NA. Even though maybe Bellstep's a better team, we don't really know, but that's kind of just like why we decided to choose the NA team, just because get that out of the way, just make sure we don't have to worry about any issues with lag and stuff.
Sure. You know, playing against a team like this, is it easy to overlook them? Do you find yourselves like maybe thinking more about the other SPL teams that are in this tournament?
Definitely doing both. Like, so in our bracket we have Mind the Gap, and then if we win we play Pk United, and then we win we play Radiant. Yeah. And then obviously finals, who knows, probably like most likely goes, but obviously a lot of other teams there. So yeah, when we are scrimming and whatever we're like doing stuff, like that would be a good strat against this team. We should make sure like when we play against this team we do this and that, and it's always something you have to keep in mind, because you don't want a tunnel vision on one team and then realize you're playing in one day against PK and don't have anything ready, and then you win, you finish at like 11 p.m. or something, and you play the next day and you're like, oh, we didn't have anything ready for Radiance, you know, like you don't want to have that. So yeah, we're doing a little bit of both. Like we're gonna watch the games tomorrow. I don't know if it's tomorrow. I think maybe probably like in 2-3 days we'll watch the games, see what they're playing, their picks, keep in mind like how they play, like what they invade or whatever. And we'll decide, like, we won't put too much thought process into it. If you want to win Worlds, you kind of just have to win against every team. Right. So, like, if we can't win against Mind the Gap, we're not going to win against PK, we're not going to win against Radiance, we're not going to win against Ghost. So, like, it doesn't matter if you get 4th or first or, like, 6th or 7th. So, like, if we lose to Mind the Gap, then we're going to win Worlds, and it's whatever.
Sure. Basically, you have to run the gauntlet no matter what.
Yeah, pretty much. We have to win, like, 5 sets or something.
Yeah.
4. We have to win 4 sets in a row, so.
I want to maybe get your take on this, because it's probably been a little while since you have been in sort of this qualification or placement stage of Worlds, because I think last year you guys, of course it was different, but you auto-qualified. So how does it feel being back in qualifiers. After not having to.
Honestly, I personally don't mind it because I think it is good for a team. So, like I said, like if you're gonna win Worlds, you're gonna win against every team, right? And I think if you can't win against, like, if we can't win against like any of the lower end teams, like any of the teams that are like 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, SML teams, like you're not gonna win Worlds. It's that simple. If you can't win, like if we cannot win against Mind the Gap, we're not gonna win against Ghost. We're not gonna win against Radiance. So I think it's good to have like warm-up games, right? It is bad if you're like a one-dimensional team who can get out-drafted, who have like 1 or 2 picks that are like pocket picks that you don't want to reveal, then that's bad. But if you're playing standard Smite, if everyone knows I'm gonna pick Erlang and I just pick it and I don't reveal anything, then it's good. So it just depends on how prepared we are and how much like we rely on our picks. If you don't rely on your picks much, I think it's a very good thing to get to play more games, so you get to warm up more.
Sure.
Make sure like you fix any like jitters or like nerves, any mistakes you've been doing leading up to the important games. I think being Ghost Radiance has its advantages, being in semis, but you could have you just have one bad, you start the team badly and it's over for you. You don't get,
Yeah, I mean, because they only have 2 sets to play, really. So
yeah,
the opportunity for something catastrophic affecting them, I think, is a lot higher.
And morale is a really important thing. Like if you're winning, if you're like stomping, you're feeling really confident. Like you're just confident and you like we're gonna win. And if you barely win, you're gonna still be hyped. So that it's still a momentum that you have carried over in the set. So if you win and you think you were gonna lose, then maybe it hits your confidence a little bit. But who knows?
Sure. What are some spicy god picks that you think we can expect to see on Worlds? Or is there anything spicy, or you think people are just gonna?
I don't really know what's spicy anymore. I think there's a big meta switch that I've been seeing happening in scrims. So I'm excited to see if that's gonna end up happening. Which is something we should be good for. It should be a good thing for us, but we haven't been doing it because we kind of just figured out it is happening. We haven't been scrimming the teams that have been trying to switch the meta. We've been scrimming the teams that have been doing the same thing. So I'm excited to see this week specifically if it ends up switching in that direction. But for gods, I don't know, maybe Apollo has been seeing some playing jungle.
Yeah.
Maybe that's gonna happen. A lot of different junglers being picked as well. I think that's it. I don't think there's any spicy ADCs or mid laners or so. And there's man, that is really unexpected because they're kind of just standard roles. So I'd say maybe just jungle, there's a little bit of spice happening. And that's it, yeah. Ymir is probably going to be OP.
All right.
So we'll see with that as well.
All right, well, I just want to give you my thanks for coming on here and wish you and Space Station Gaming the best of luck in this Worlds tournament. You got any shout-outs you want to give?
Shouts to my team, obviously. Shout out to SSG as well for being great this year. And they'll definitely be missed in the league and by us specifically after next year where there's going to be no more orgs. They've been easily the best org we've ever had. So I'm really glad that I had a chance to be a part of them for at least 1 year.
Sure. All right, man. Thanks so much, and wish you guys the best of luck.
Thank you.
Let's formally do picks real quick. Frost, who you got? Space Station?
3-0.
3-0 for Space Station.
And I think Mind the Gap's going to try to do something.
Yeah.
Initially at the start, some jank, and Space Station's going to smack them. And they're going to be quick games, but only because they're going to be putting down Mind the Gap so quickly at the start.
Sure. Lermy, how about you? Mind the Gap versus Space Station.
I mean, I'm in a very similar vein to Frost here. Mind the Gap is a very mental-oriented team. If their mental gets wrecked in game 1, it's going to be really hard for them to come back. But, like I said, these are my guys. I have so much faith in them to at least, make the SOC proud, make the lower reaches beneath the SPL, actually have a decent showing here. So I am going to say 3-1, still for Space Station, though.
Sure. Kiki, you want to finish us off here? Mind the Gap versus Space Station?
I'm going to have to go Space Station. I mean, unless Space Station are really rusty and Mind the Gap come in with the first game hot, maybe a 20-minute stomp or something.
Yeah.
But 3-1 maybe Space Station.
All right, let's move on to the next match, which will be EU versus Pk Pittsburgh Knights. I think this is the last of the sort of placement matches that will happen before Worlds. I think from my perspective, Baskin and Gino's impact has been kind of underwhelming. I think we might have expected them to win more or win better. in some of these games that we've seen from Baskin and Gino? And are we maybe overestimating their impact on this team? Or not? Do you guys want to see more from them? Go ahead.
It's hard to put it on one player.
Sure.
You don't just join a team and then it's plug and play.
Right.
You have to figure out the quirks of everyone and somehow work off your strengths. Baskin, he's the type of player who is such a star that he demands resources. And Gino's really good mechanically, but I don't know if he has what it takes to be a leader yet.
Sure. I don't know. I bring it up because we've sort of seen Baskin, I think, in the past 2 or 3 years, sort of hop on a team close to World's time, and they end up making a pretty good run. I want to say, they do pretty well. I'm thinking of like Baskin when he joined E United in the second split last year, and I think he joined Splice for a little bit in the mid-season to sort of like keep them from faltering too much in season 5. So I've at least experienced Baskin sort of coming in and making like immediate impacts, and the reason I brought that up is because we didn't really see that. Am I just being wrong about that?
I think it's a combination. It was beautifully worded that he is a budding talent that requires resources. We've seen that with Splice, with the United. Those are different rosters, and they had superstars on that team. Even when Baskin started out, he swapped in for Solo on the World Champion team, the first one. So those are teams with just access resources that can help him grow, and then he can play from within there. I think this team is just he needs to have superstars around him. I don't think he's ever going to be able to just kind of take ragtag and make it better. I think he can take superstars and make them unbeatable.
Here's a look at what Herwind had to say about E United in the Smite World Championships. Hey guys, I'm here with Herwind, the mid laner for E United, to check in with the team before the Worlds Tournament coming up soon. So I think the first place I'm going to start here is by talking about how you guys are prepping for this tournament. How is it going, sort of overarchingly, and is everyone in the team house, or are you going to be playing from separate places?
I think everyone's just going to... We talked about it, but I think everyone's just going to be playing from where they're comfortable.
Sure.
So, like, going through the effort of bringing Gino and Baskin here and putting them on a setup they're not comfortable with, we just decided it's probably better that everyone plays at, their homes.
Right.
So that's what we're doing. In terms of prep, probably a similar answer that most people will give, but we're just preparing for who we play first, which is PK.
Yeah.
So we're just, prepping as best we can for them, draft-wise, pick-wise, everything you'd expect.
Sure. Do you guys feel like you're underdogs in this tournament? I mean, like, I know you guys have sort of a lot of tenured players, but also some relatively newer players. How do you guys feel going into this tournament, especially given, the way that the phases have played out?
Yeah, well, we're 100% underdogs, like, even on paper, like, even in, like, I don't know if I would say in our own minds, but, like, we definitely just are underdogs, and we have, like, a pretty hard bracket on paper, at least, ahead of us. So, yeah, I don't know, like, Gino's really the only, like, newer player. I would say most of us have, like, been in or in and out for a while now.
Yep.
But, I mean, since we've had the new roster, we finished, like, essentially, like, 5-5 is what I would say, whereas before we were 0-10.
Right.
So we've definitely, like, made positive progress, and if you follow that trend, you should at least hope that, we're improving as we go as well. And by the time you see us at Worlds, we should be a contending team.
Yeah. Do you think that bringing Baskin and Gino on maybe, like, raise the expectations and maybe put, like, a burden of expectations on the team? And was that maybe a good or a bad thing? Or how did you feel about sort of the expectations from bringing someone like Baskin and Gino who are on... I mean, Baskin has a very storied SPL career, but even Gino, I think, was considered one of the top sort of SML supports or SCC supports this year.
Yeah, so I would say that, like, there were expectations for maybe, like, Baskin as a personal player. I don't know what the expectations for Gino exactly were, because no one can ever really say when you go SML to SPL. There are expectations as Baskin, like, as a player to perform at a certain level. he was kind of like rusty on the role for sure when he first went back to it, because he's playing mid most of the year and most of the last year as well. So there are expectations in that way, but like as a team, I don't think anyone really had any specific expectations for us. Most people, I think, understood, even outside of our team, that it was kind of like a Hail Mary. Like, we didn't really feel like we had much of a shot with the old roster, and this was just like our best way of like making a run for Worlds. And it still feels like we're doing that, and it still feels like the right decision. And at the end of the day, I feel like we've got the best shot that like we could ask for, and I feel like that's probably how most other people should see it as well, assuming they don't have any bias.
Sure. Do you prefer having to sort of play through the tournament, or do you prefer getting to, have a higher seed and see what people are going to do before having to play them? Because I think when you were on Dig last year, you had the opportunity to have a bye, correct?
Well, we just didn't play in the qualifiers.
Right. Do you think that, having to play these extra games, is that something that you personally like, or would you rather sort of have the bye or whatever?
I think that because people like talked about like SK played through the qualifiers and they won. And I think that at the end of the day, that probably did help them. But it's impossible to say. I think like most people probably should say a bye is better. Like this year, the bye is as strong as it's ever been.
Right.
Because they're in semis, so they don't have to play. We have to play 2 sets over them to win the tournament.
Yes.
We have to play 2 sets just to be where they're at now. Against, for us, we're lower seeds, so that's just how it is. We have to play better teams to get there as well. So I would say like a bye, especially this year, is just definitely like very preferable, because by the time we would play Radiance, for example, in our case, they'll have seen us play like potentially like 2 close like
matches,
best of 5s, and at that point we'll probably have to show a lot of what we want to do.
Sure.
And that doesn't necessarily mean they have like crazy advantage over us, because we could change stuff from game to game too, but in my opinion, like I'd much rather be in their shoes than ours.
Sure. All right, last couple questions here. Any spicy god picks that you can leak from the secret scrims, or what can we expect? Can you give us a little crumb?
I don't think I can, just because part of me would like to if we lived in another world, or just give you, and part of me is tempted to just say some character that no one's gonna play just to get people's hopes up. So like maybe a little Baba thrown in now and then, like might whip it, who knows?
Sure.
But the reality is, like, if I play that character, I'm probably like inting the set, and you can come back and pull this if that happens. But yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of teams for this tournament are going to be playing a lot of different picks. That's my guess. I think there's going to be as big a variation as maybe you've ever seen. That's my guess, at least. It's hard to say. Like, obviously, I can't talk too much about our practice with other teams, but I'd say it should be pretty interesting tournament pick wise. Hopefully, at least, like, I don't know. I don't want to see like whatever last round. I want to see like Nike solo every game, and I don't know. It's the in healers. So that might end up being the case, from ranked and stuff. But who knows? Sure. Hopefully not.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Tyler. I really appreciate it. I want to wish you and United the best of luck in the qualifiers and in Worlds. And any shout outs you'd like to give?
Yeah, just shout out to the boys, especially those guys who've been here from the beginning. Snoopy, Scream. It's been a rough year. It's been a long year. I think a lot of us, all of us performed way under our own standards and our expectations for what the team wanted to be. So I'm proud to be alongside those guys the whole way this year. I'm thankful for Gino and Baskin for stepping in for us as well. And I'm super appreciative of United as well. We definitely didn't perform up to our own standards. Obviously, we didn't perform up to their standards, but they've still been very patient and supportive of us. That's not something that's easy to find in an org, so I'm super appreciative of that too. And of course, family and parents, for all the players and stuff dealing with us this year, especially with COVID going on and all of us being away from home. So shout out to all those guys. Shout out to you as well and all the other content creators who are putting stuff out this year, trying to keep it as interesting as possible while we're online. We definitely all appreciate that kind of stuff.
Well, thanks a lot for mentioning that, Hurry. And again, wish you the best of luck in Worlds.
Thank you, man.
I know we sort of focused on United in this matchup, but Pittsburgh Knights are sort of right where they always want to be. Ever since this roster started with Trifecta, maybe going through placements and going through the gauntlet, going into Worlds, I think we've seen good things from them. Do you guys expect another run from the PK boys?
Not especially. I mean, what we saw last year was kind of like a 1 in a million thing. I think that, you know, they certainly do have the talent to be able to do that, you know, but the difference maker for me is that they're not going to be getting any of the energy or the, you know, the excitement from playing on LAN. And I think they definitely were able to eat up the excitement of the crowd that kept seeing them win, that kept seeing them do things that, you know, nobody thought they were going to do initially. They're not going to be able to feed from that positive energy of Twitch chat, but you can't really watch Twitch chat during your game like you can hear everyone cheering for you out in the stadium. So I think it'll be a little bit harder for them to get that momentum because, you know, once they were getting it last year, it was just so easy for them to keep going with it. But the problem this time, I think, is definitely going to be finding that momentum and keeping it rolling.
You're saying they've got like that underdog syndrome that I always say I have. You know, the underdog is always the hungriest one, right? But now you're just kind of a bit of a satiated pit bull right in the middle. Like, yeah, we already won Worlds, you know. Hey, you're not nearly as hungry as you were last year.
They got to get Cuvo's rig, right?
This is true. Do it. Be hungry for the boys. And this being online completely, I don't know if that's going to play into their mental or not. Because, like you said, this is a team that soaks up energy and then puts it on the field. There's not going to be much energy to soak. You're not going to feel those poggers in the Twitch chat.
Might have to send them a pick-me-up message or something, you know, with some hype bangers, you know, just to get the spirits rolling.
That'll do it. Also, my bet's going to be on dependent on how much ranked Zap's been playing.
That's fair.
Hey, he hasn't streamed, I think, he's not streaming on the weekend, so that's good. Kiki, your thoughts on Kiki, your thoughts on this?
I mean, I feel like Pittsburgh Knights have it in the bag.
Sure.
And you guys said with the energy and all, I feel like Cuvo's the type of player who wouldn't let his teammates get down. And he's the jungler, so he controls the pace of the game. So definitely, I feel like they're just going to look for 30, 35-minute games, not let it get too long.
Yeah, sure. Let's check out what Neil had to say about PK making another run for Worlds. Hey guys, I'm here with Neil, the support for PK, to see how the team is doing and check in a little bit in their preparation for Worlds. So I think I'll start there. How is the team preparing for Worlds? A lot of scrims, or is there some more mental components that are going into this? And just how is the general vibe in the prep leading up to this tournament?
Yeah, definitely a lot of scrims, obviously. Most teams, I think, are taking a break this week, like the week of like the holidays. For a lot of just for most teams are like some people are going home to see their loved ones, and some people are going to like their girlfriends or whatever. So not a lot of scrims this week, but yeah, definitely a lot of scrims leading up to this and a lot of experimentation for sure. It's gonna be really interesting seeing what teams are gonna do, just because we haven't seen a whole lot of the teams play SPL or anything in the regular season for a long time. But yeah, the vibe's definitely really good as well. I think everyone's just having a lot of fun. Obviously, it's really serious still, and I think we're performing really well too, which makes it a lot easier to have a good mood. It's one thing like your scrim results don't usually affect your mood too much through the regular season, but leading up to Worlds, obviously, if you're not doing super well, there's like a lot of pressure on everybody. But yeah, we're doing quite well in scrims. Everyone's definitely pulling their weight, and everyone's like listening to input and having good thoughts about the game, in terms of like what they want to be playing, how they want to play the map. So yeah, everything's going really well for us right now.
Yeah. I know you guys are facing off against E United in the first round here. How do you feel about this E United team? And are there other teams that you're worried about, or do you guys sort of focus on sort of one team at a time rather than maybe look at the tournament more holistically in your preparation?
Definitely focus, for me at least, one team at a time for sure. I think especially in a single elimination tournament, it's just way too risky. Kind of underestimate any opponent and be like, let's write off United, let's write off Space Station, let's write off Reigns, whoever, let's prepare for this team. So we're definitely preparing for like every team that's right in front of us. That being said, I do kind of have expectations who we're going to play later on. Like, for instance, I expect to play Space Station in the second round just because they're going to be like a challenger team, and odds are they're going to win. So in the back of my mind, I have other things about like, when we beat United and we play Space Station, here's some ideas about how I want to ban. Here's some ideas about what I want to be playing against that team in particular because they play way different than an United or a Radiance. But realistically speaking, like I don't do any preparation really outside of just like thinking about it like offhandedly on my own in my free time.
Sure.
All my prep is going to be going into just whatever matchups right in front of me. So for sure, yeah. So definitely not going to be taking United lightly. I know that they haven't been performing. They've been like really well through the whole year. They've been really up and down. But that being said, I mean, with a month off and players as good as theirs, kind of anything can happen, right?
Sure. Does this feel a little bit like deja vu? You know, you guys are back after an up and down season, back in the qualifiers for Worlds. You know, is this just where you guys feel comfortable? And how is that feeling, you know, going back to qualifiers again after winning Worlds last year?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously wanted to be here. It's kind of our thing to be in the placements. So we were like, maybe we just, you know, don't do well. So we go to placements again. It's kind of the formula. Nah, but like in reality, like it's obviously really tough to have such up and down seasons all the time. Like it's just like mentally pretty taxing because even last year I was like, this is like we are not a 7-seeded team. Like it's kind of ridiculous. Like we're a really good team. But we just like have trouble sometimes putting it all together. And it always seems like towards the end of the year, that's kind of like when we put it all together. So it's definitely a familiar feeling being at placements. And we don't really view it necessarily as a negative thing. I think there's a lot of pros and cons of placements. Like, yeah, the team gets to see you play one more set and they get to see maybe something you like to play, maybe how you want to draft. At the same time, also, say you're Radiance or Ghost, for example, you don't get any time to warm up. You just are in the semifinals and then you play. There's definitely pros and cons to both. Definitely, yeah, not the ideal situation. Like I said, we'd like to do a lot better in the regular season, but the reality is this is where we are, and yeah, we don't really have too much of a problem with it because we know we're a good team and we know we can work when it matters.
Sure. I want to thank you for joining me, and I want to wish you and PK the best of luck in the qualifiers and in the Worlds tournament. Going ahead. You have any shout-outs you want to give?
Yeah, first off, just thanks for having me. It's always a lot of fun to come by and have a nice little sit-down chat with you. So thanks for having me on the show. Obviously, shout-outs to the Pittsburgh Knights. It's been a lot of fun having them as an org this year. Shout-outs to all my teammates and just all of our fans as well, just everyone who's been supporting us throughout the year and past years too. I know we've been a little bit up and down, which is too bad. But at the same time, I mean, you kind of knew you were getting into. Like, come on.
A little bit.
Come on. yeah, but thanks to all the fans, and thanks for supporting us. Yeah, it means a lot.
All right, man. Thanks a lot for joining me, and again, wish you best of luck in the Worlds tournament.
Thanks.
Let's talk picks then. Kiki, you want to start us off here? I think you said PK.
Yeah, PK, you know, they had Sam when they won.
Yeah.
So now they have Cuvo. But what Sam did really well was play Pele, Hunbots, Thor, things that are looking to front run the pace of the game.
Sure.
And with Cuvo and Neil, I think that they'll control the game. Scary D can always hold his own lane, and he's going to be up against Baskin, which that's definitely something that you need. You need a solo laner who can hold up their own against Baskin.
Yeah.
And Paul, if you let him free farm, and he will carry once he hits like 15, 16.
Sure. Frost, how about you? PK versus United.
I think it's going to be 3-0 PK. I do think most of this is kind of reliant on Baskin or some crazy overall team strat. But I think the Knights have it down, focus them out, put Cuvo over on that side of the map. And then the rest of the team just kind of falls apart. I think this will be their easiest match. They might think it's too easy and do that one thing where they absolutely flex on them, but hopefully it's not that
gonna come out
bloody
or something.
one-sided. Yeah, where they kick down like nobody's business.
Sure.
Christ, teams underneath them, they put the Timmies on, just stomp on them. But I hopefully they show a little more restraint.
Lermy, how about you? PK versus United.
I mean, I definitely am going in the favor of PK here, but I do want to give some benefit of the doubt to United. I do think now that Baskin has had some time to settle back into solo after being mid for so long, and with Gino being able to be in that upper environment again in the SPL, I think it is going to have improved their play a lot. Whether or not we see them win is the big question mark here, or win a game rather. I don't think they have a chance to win the set. But I think I will say 3-1 just because I have some faith in those guys to, make a show for themselves instead of just falling over to a 20-minute set mid game.
Sure. All right, I think with that, we should probably move to the teams that have auto-qualified to the semifinals. And before we talk about the individual teams, I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on maybe the advantages and disadvantages of auto-qualifying all the way to the semifinals. Do you think that maybe teams can, I don't want to say get rusty, but maybe pick up rust over, just watching the other people play during World Championship week? Or do you think it's a big advantage to see what other teams are going to be pulling out?
It's good and bad in a number of ways.
For those exact reasons that you named too.
Yeah. I mean, really, you get more information by waiting longer to play. You don't have to reveal your hand as much, but by that same token, you are not playing in that environment. You're not playing in that meta for the first couple of matches. You're just watching it happen. And playing is a lot easier to stay in the momentum if you've done it more. If starting to get into the momentum, doing that first step is going to be difficult because the semis matter, man. They are right before that world champion title, that last final game. So, for them to be playing at a semifinal level without having even played at all during the tournament is going to be an ask. But I think that both Radiance and Ghost, they are capable of doing it. I will say that they are two of the strongest teams, if not the strongest teams in the league already. And honestly, they're the ones to be able to use that station that they've earned to their advantage.
Sure. Frost, you had some thoughts?
I think it comes down to brackets. To me, from what Lermy said, Ghost is more apt towards that definition of, they're semifinal material. They can come in with all that information and kind of make up for the running start that they don't get. It's essentially what these teams are getting is all this playtime keeps them warm and lets you build up momentum and get through the entire tournament. Whereas in semifinals, it's kind of like you're starting off the gun while everybody's already warmed up.
Right.
I think Ghost have the easier bracket here because they're going up. If any of those four teams end up in match 7, you got Belt Slap, Renegades, Obey, and Sanguine. I think they're perfectly fine. Whereas Radiance, I think they've got issues if they're going against Space Station Gaming. In particular, maybe the Knights. Then again, Radiance has the Knights' number. They just ban out Paul, and they're like, it's whatever. But they should be fine. My only worry is Radiance.
Sure. Kiki, your thoughts on this? I'm sure maybe you've had some chances to be auto-qualified to certain tournaments, have you? I don't know.
I don't remember. It's a long time ago because I just started losing for a while. But regardless, I feel like, so when you're climbing up this bracket, you start developing confidence in your play. You beat these teams out. Sometimes you shut them down. So you have a confidence of your meta, right? When you have all these buys, you don't really know if what you've been practicing translates well on the world stage. It's just a whole different sort of energy because everything's on the line. So everyone's going haywire, right? And so if you come in with a comp that's a little too lax and they pick pressure, then Radiance can fall to Space Station, Radiance can fall to Pittsburgh. They can't fall to Mind the Gap or United, but they have to watch out. I feel like they have to really watch the games and you just analyze everything.
Yeah. Do you feel like, if especially for these teams that are auto-qualified to the semifinals, that if there's a big shift in the meta that they're not prepared for, that could be really detrimental? Like if you see match 2 between Obey Alliance and Sanguine, and they're playing 10 gods that they've never played before because of some groundbreaking meta shift that has happened, and you guys just didn't practice that. Is that you think people would maybe feel scared, or it'd be like, oh, we have 2 days of matches to watch so we can figure this out?
Well, I know that Radiance, when they won with that Geb solo, I think is when they won,
When
it
they
was
were
a Worlds
Splice?
team. When they were Splice.
Yeah.
They concocted that Geb like 1 week before the tournament.
Oh, yeah,
Jovios
okay.
was just, I don't know, like eating some chicken or something, and all of a sudden he's like, I think Geb solo's good, guys. And they're like, okay. And it won them the game because once you have something that stops the enemy from doing what they want, and it also lets you... The Geb Ultimate is a great setup. It does damage based off of percentage amount of their health that they have. So once you have a good kit in a god, that's all you need. It's not about meta. It's about what sort of tools can you get on the team.
Sure.
I think they'll be fine as far as adaptability comes from. And if at its worst, it's a best of 5, you kind of have the first game to throw away. You're like, you know what, our strat into theirs, if it's that dominant, we'll just take it.
I've rarely seen teams really do significant shifts in, play style within a match. I feel like...
I know, and it pisses me off. When Aurora was playing Fenrir, nobody decided to try and counter his Fenrir during his Worlds run. Like, what was that? That was the most static approach to a dominant team. And especially in the finals, they are so stubborn with their bans.
Well, we see them change picks and bans, I feel like. But I feel like, in general... the style of game is sort of cemented before a Worlds tournament. Like you practice for a long time and you say, all right, we want to do this and we're going to try to do this first in every game. And if it doesn't work, then we should try to shift it. But I feel like that shifting doesn't really happen too much.
I feel like people are just too scared to take a chance. If you haven't really cemented your gameplay and Nox jungle is good, right? Like, Sino's not going to chance it. He's going to say, pick me Wukong or some other warrior.
Sure.
I gave him more mitigation this time.
Oh, boy.
I do want to talk maybe specifically about each of these teams. Ghost comes into this tournament, definitely the clear favorites. What do you expect from this Ghost team? Do you basically expect them to be there in the finals on Sunday?
Yeah, no doubt, honestly.
Probably.
Probably from Kiki?
With that bracket? Oh, yeah, absolutely. They've got the easy one.
Yeah. Let's hear what Final K has to say about this Ghost squad that is auto-qualified. Hey guys, I'm here with Final K, the solo laner for Ghost Gaming. Here to talk about how they're prepping for Worlds. And I guess we'll start right there. How is the preparation going for this Worlds tournament? Maybe compare and contrast it to previous Worlds tournaments that you've prepared for.
Yeah, it's a little different now because it's in January, and the past few Worlds have been in November.
Sure, yeah.
So, and obviously it's also very different with everything going on right now. So we're just preparing to play online, which is, it definitely sucks, but it is what it is. We got to do what we got to do, and it's different playing in January just because you get a little bit more time on the map. Playing in November lately, it's only been about 11 months on the map, whereas playing in January is like a year and another month. So get a lot of extra time, but it's also around the holidays. So a lot of teams prep differently because some teams will take off some time during the holidays, Christmas and everything like that. Because, people either travel, but a lot of people aren't traveling right now. So, but, maybe some people are still spending some time with family, doing that kind of important stuff. So, it's tough to schedule scrims around that, but apart from those important like times with family and everything like that, we're basically scrimming every single day. Our teams personally, our motto, or I guess the thing that we live by, is that we don't really think it's important to just double scrim every single day and just have no days off. We think it's really important to take time off and have some time to do other stuff, free time, and keep our minds healthy, our bodies healthy, so that we're not just committing all of our time to Smite. We have some free time to do other stuff so that we can, be focused on the goal. So
sure.
Yeah, that's how we see it, at least.
Yeah. So you unfortunately don't really know who you're going to be playing until some of these games sort of pan out a little bit. So I'm going to ask instead, what is the team that maybe you guys are most worried about? Or do you even see it that way? You think it's sort of an even playing field at this point?
I think there's some teams that are clearly above the others as far as like how they've performed this season and just what we think of the players and their skill ceiling and everything like that. I wouldn't say that we're necessarily worried about them, but there are teams that we expect to probably play.
Sure.
Like if we were to make it to the finals, I'd expect to see Radiance there. If we like, I think the team that will probably play in the semifinals is either Renegades or Sanguine. If Sanguine stops choking on land, then maybe we'll play them. But if they don't, then I would probably guess that Renegades is probably going to be in the semis playing against us, just because they actually have gotten a lot better over the year, and they kind of have found their groove and know what they want to do, and they play around pressure really well, which is really important. It always is important in competitive. So
right.
Yeah, probably those two teams.
Sure. You know, speaking on that, do you sort of feel like waiting and seeing is an advantage for you guys, or you know, some people like to play the game so, you know, their mental is warmed up and, you know, they're maybe looser going into semifinals or finals and things like that. But since you guys are already in the finals, do you guys think that it's an advantage to wait and see, or do you like to play?
That's a tough one. It could be 50-50 really. Like Smite's a really like information-based game, so being able to watch other people play and like learn from their games is really like, that's a big advantage.
Sure.
But it's also a big disadvantage to just not play at all and just have, you know, your one set semifinals with potentially, I guess in theory, a top 4 team, because all the top 4 teams should be in the semifinals.
Right.
You know, it's going to be a tough matchup, your very first matchup. So, you know, I think it can go either way. I personally think it's all comes down to your mentality leading into it. If you just have the confidence and the right mentality going into the team that you're going to play, then having that bye is actually a really big deal. And as far as just like guaranteed money, obviously we're already guaranteed money, so that's, you know, that's a good thing as well.
Sure.
So I think as long as we stay confident and don't overthink it and just like head into the semifinals prepared for the team that we're going to play after watching them, should be good.
Yeah, you touched a little bit on your mentality. Can you talk a little bit about that? Especially because you guys are, I would say, the favorites in this tournament. Is that something that you guys think about at all, being the favorites, or, you know, does that bring any additional pressure onto you? I know Worlds is probably pressure filled for all the teams here, but being the favorites, is that something that is conscious thing that you think about?
Yeah, it is. It's hard to like go on Twitter or Reddit or anything like that and not see that people expect us to win. They're literally like saying congrats already.
Yeah.
Which is a little weird. There's a ton of good teams, and I think it's going to be a really good tournament. But at the same time, we can't let that affect us at all. I mean, if we internalize that and think, oh, this is just a done deal, then we're going to play worse. And also, if we internalize that and then think like, and then maybe lose our confidence because there's too much pressure or anything like that, then we're going to play worse than we would have. So we kind of have to, I wouldn't say ignore it all, but take it in stride. And also, I mean, we're a really, really confident team.
Sure.
And whenever you're the favorites going into anything, it's really good to hold that confidence, but also not change like any of your preparation. You know, prepare like you always have, and do everything that you always do so that you can win like you always have. And yeah, it could be a little nerve-wracking having all that pressure on, but we just have to be really, really confident and play our game when we go in.
Any spicy God picks we can expect? Is there anything you want to leak from the secret scrims, or?
I don't know if I have anything too spicy. I don't really have anything specifically spicy that maybe I could leak or that we're playing, but I will say that I do think that what you saw in the Challenger Cup, like their picks and bans and what they were doing, incorrect. No bueno.
Incorrect.
No bueno.
Wonderful. All right.
No bueno.
I want to thank you so much for coming and wish you and Ghost Gaming the best of luck in this World's tournaments. Do you want to give any shout outs?
Yeah, well, just shout outs to the community. And shout outs to Hi-Res for running Worlds, of course, despite the situation. So it should be a good tournament. I hope everybody enjoys it, and hopefully it's a good competition, and hopefully I come out with a ring.
Yeah. All right, man. All the best to you. I mean, Radiance too. They're a team that always seems to show up at these tourney times. You know, we see them sort of falter in the regular phases, and then the playoffs comes around, and again they're back there in the finals with Ghost. You think they are sitting pretty in this tournament? Or I think we've talked about them a lot. You know, with them having a tougher bracket. So,
are you asking to win it or to get to finals?
Maybe just your overall thoughts.
Overall, I think Radiance could come there. I think unless Space Station was like sandbagging and it wasn't just rust, Radiance has shown that there is a pretty big skill gap between the second and third. My biggest issue is that there's kind of also a skill gap between first and second right now. I'm just hoping whatever happens, as much as I love Ghost, I hope it's not a complete stomp.
Sure.
I don't think it'll be a stomp, but the only thing that worries me is if Radiance get 0-2'd in the beginning of their set, just say something random happens or they lose a Fire Giant. I don't know if they'll be able to bounce back with them not having the warm up. I just like SSG could definitely take the games off them.
Sure. Well, I think if you're down 0-2, you know, things are going pretty wrong anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it can happen, but it doesn't matter because it's just a fresh, you have to 3-0. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, nothing else matters.
True. My good friend Aurora spent some time and talked to me about the Radiant squad heading into the World Championships. Hey guys, I'm here with Aurora, the support for Radiance, just to check in with the team and see how everyone is doing. Looking forward to the World Championship here. And so the first question I got to ask here is, how's the team preparing for this tournament? You know, I know you guys don't really know who your opponent is going to be. So can you talk me through maybe how you guys are preparing both for the game and maybe mentally as well?
Yeah, we've just been scrimming since the end of the split.
Mhm.
We've scrimmed a bunch of the SPL teams. We haven't scrimmed everybody yet, but we've scrimmed probably a little bit, like half of the SPL teams probably.
Sure.
And we've just been scrimming as usual, kind of talking about what potential matchups we can get into, who's on our side of the bracket, things like that. But we really haven't like eyed in on one team. We kind of, I feel like anyone can come out of our side of the bracket and end up playing us on that side. I think there's teams like SSG and PK probably have a better chance than the other teams, but I think the SML team has a shot, and even the other team as well. I believe it's Obey, right? That's on our side of the bracket. I think it's.
I believe
Obey.
it's E United. I'm looking at the bracket.
Oh yeah, it is United.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, honestly, like all the teams, like between United, Obey, they had a rough split, but I think they have a chance to maybe make some noise. Same thing with the SML team. I watched their games as well. I watched the NA SML games. They're on our side of the bracket. I know that for sure.
Yep.
So that should be pretty interesting. I'm surprised because SSG picked the NASML team, correct? Yeah, I think that's what happened. So that's pretty surprising. I wonder what their thoughts were picking that team.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I imagine they probably know a little bit more and maybe fear some of the EU players a little bit more because that was the choice they had, right, between EU or NA.
Yeah.
Maybe they're underestimating our NA box boys. Speaking of sort of prep and your opponents, you know, I know a lot of teams tend to take this sort of one game at a time, but you guys are in a position where you can't really do that, and you basically have to wait and see. Do you think it's a bit of a luxury, you know, to wait and see what these teams pull out? You're going to have basically 2 rounds of information to work with before you even have to get on the battlefield. Is that something that you think it is in your advantage?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's hard to say that it isn't. If you get to watch other teams play, get to see how they draft, get to see what they do around the map and things like that, it's going to help a lot. I mean, you still have to play them at the end of the day and beat them. Knowing what they do and how they do it doesn't really matter too much. It just gives you an idea and a better chance to prepare for them. So It's definitely an advantage, 100%.
Yeah.
We were kind of in the same scenario. I feel like back in season 5, we got to sit out of the qualifier tournament. We got to watch all the teams play. I wasn't really playing that much Fenrir like back then, I remember, and I got to see them play Fenrir, and I literally played a couple days of Fenrir. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll just whip it at Worlds. Why not? It's good. A lot of teams are struggling against it. It ended up being really good. So just be able to watch what teams do in draft and just see what they are prioritizing and how they're playing the map. It's 100% an advantage. I think some people would maybe try to say it's not because you're not playing or whatever, but since the tournament's all online anyways and everybody's playing where they're comfortable at, it's for sure an advantage 100%.
Yeah, and especially I think because sort of there's like a break between these first 2 rounds and the second 2 rounds. There's like a whole day in between, at least the broadcast schedule there is. So I'm sure there's a break, significant break between, you know, them playing that tournament and them playing this other tournament where, you know, I'm sure a little bit of momentum carries over, but probably not as much as you would see, you know, during maybe a normal Worlds run or something like that.
Yeah, no, it's going to be different for sure. I think there still will be momentum, though, if teams win. I don't think it's out of the question completely, but I do think it's not going to be as much, like you said, like compared to a normal World run for a weekend event.
Yeah, yeah. You know, you had a lot of previous Worlds experience. You've won Worlds in the past, Season 5 champion. What are some lessons that, you know, you've taken from those Worlds runs and like leading up to those Worlds runs that you're maybe trying to use, you know, that's informing how you prepare and how you are helping your team prepare for this Worlds run?
Yeah, the biggest thing I've learned from all the Worlds I've participated in is that scrims don't matter at all. Like results. Sorry, I said it bad. Results of scrims don't matter at all. Scrims matter. Like if you win or lose, it doesn't matter. The winning and losing part doesn't matter. It depends. The only thing that matters is if your team is on the same page and you guys are getting better as a group. Because last year when I was on the Splice team that lost to SK, we won every single scrim. We were dominating literally everybody going into the tournament. We felt really good about what we were doing. We felt good about our strategies, and we thought we had a really good chance of winning it. SK, you saw game 1, we had a really good game. We took them out, and then they came back, won game 2 and 3, and they took the set, and then ended up winning the whole thing. So like, we definitely could have beaten them for sure, but like they're the ones who won at the end of the day, and us winning all our scrims going into that event literally meant nothing at all. And then if you look back season 5, we were scrimming against United, and we were scrimming a little bit against Energy as well. We were on that Spice team when we won Worlds. We literally lost every single game going into that World Championship. So it's funny that we ended up winning that one compared to the one where we were winning more scrims. So like results of scrims don't matter. Like they don't matter at all, honestly. And the only thing that matters is if your team's getting better, everybody's understands what the team wants, and just trying to get the most out of them, even if the scrims aren't going the best that day, because some days they won't always be the best. And that's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah. All right, last question before I give you some time for some shout outs here. Some of the spicy god picks that are coming up. You know, peel some of the layers back. Well, what can we expect, Aurora? You know, I'm a good friend of yours. You're a good friend of mine. You know, this is what the people want to know.
Man, I don't know, actually. I haven't really seen anything too crazy, to be honest. But there's still a lot of time left. So you'll just have to wait and see. But
just
right
have to
now,
wait and see. You're not even gonna give me a hint of anything.
No hints. No hints. But yeah.
All right, man. I just want to thank you very much for coming on here, checking in with us, and I want to wish you and your team the best of luck. I want to give you the floor here for any shout outs you would want to give. Just again, thank you very much.
Yeah, shout outs to Radiance. Thanks for sponsoring us this year. They came in like last second after Ghost kind of dropped us, because that's a whole confusing thing. That's the new Ghost that's rival isn't the Ghost anymore. That was us or whatever.
Right.
So, but like big shout outs to Radiance. I really appreciate everything they've done for us this year. They've been great. Shout outs to my family for supporting me doing this still. I mean, this is my 8th year now, or 7th year, I guess, going into 8th. It's kind of crazy. And then shout outs to you. I think you've been doing a really good job with all these interviews this year. I think it's really cool that you stepped up and tried to do some like player spotlights and all these different things for the scene. I think it's really good. I think it helps the scene grow, and I think you've done a really good job at it as well. So thanks for having me on again.
Thank you very much for those sentiments, Roar, and you're always welcome to come on here. And like I said, wish you the best of luck in the future. Thanks for joining us, man. Thanks for watching the SPL Rundown pre-Worlds show. Our post-Worlds show will be sometime after Worlds. Not sure completely yet when that will be, but we'll react to all of the matches that happen in the Smite World Championship Tournament and look ahead to Season 8. As always, you can find extended cuts and past episodes of our show on the APM Productions YouTube page. And if you ever want to give me any ideas, constructive criticism, or have thoughts about future guests, you can DM me on Twitter at APM2 or at APM Productions. I want to give some updates about next year. Next year, we're going to be continuing the SPL Rundown in Season 8, and I'm producing a couple of new shows that are Smite-related, Smite-adjacent. So be sure to follow us on Twitter at APM Productions to find out all about the new shows that are going to be coming out next year. Thanks for watching, and see you guys soon.